that have to travel on motorbikes because there's not paved roads, motorcycles, bicycles, things like that, to be able to share and continue the expansion of the gospel out there. And I want to encourage you today to give. You can give more. We just ask for $1 a week, which is $4. You can certainly give more, and we would appreciate that because it's such an incredibly worthy cause. It really, really is, and it reaches the nations with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So if you think about it, just poke the devil in the eye today with $4 because he's going to try to encourage you not to. So just punch him right in the eye. I have a lot that I would love to say to you this morning, but I want to ask you this question. I want you to think about this. There are times when I would go into the hospital, I think I would have made a good doctor. And the reason that I think I would have made a good doctor is because I understand systems. I understand electricity. I understand plumbing. I understand mechanical systems. I understand a lot of things. And you know, your body is just basically it's electrical and it's mechanical and it's biological, right? So if I were to try to fix your heart, I think I could do some really good heart surgery because I'm like, I know how that stuff works. I really think I could. And I'm not even kidding. I really think I'd be. Do you know that they will not let me? Praise Jesus. Do you know why they won't let me? I don't have an MD. I haven't been to school for 10 years or whatever to learn all the things that are in there. I don't have the ability to do that. I think I have the ability, but I don't have the credentials for them to trust me to do it. If I walked into your room, it's like, who are you? It's like, you got an MD? No. But you know what I did last night, right? Stayed at the Holiday Inn Express. So I feel like that I could probably do that. Here's the thing, they won't let me be a doctor. There's a lot of things. I think I could fly an airplane. I like to fly one of those big airplanes. I think I could do it. Billy down here has let me fly his little plane. He's almost killed me in an airplane. But I think I could fly one of those big ones. They will not let me fly an airplane. Are you grateful? Yes. Listen, if you flew an airplane with me, you'd enjoy the ride. I would give you a ride. I wouldn't just be that flying across. Nah, it should be more exciting than that. So I'd give you an exciting ride. So see, they won't let me fly an airplane. And the reason they won't is because I don't have a pilot's license. And I don't have the time in to do that. Does that make y'all mad? I hope not. Does it make you mad they won't let me be a surgeon? No, of course not. It shouldn't. Because we all understand that there has to be a level of responsibility, accountability, learning, training, skill, and all those things to be able to do something and to be able to do it well. We understand that, right? Let me ask you a question. Are there things that God will not entrust you to do? Just like in the world that we immediately accept certain things. God says, I'm not gonna trust you to do that. I'm not. Now, if there's something that God will not let you do until you're trustworthy, and I'm the devil, and I know what it is, and I don't want you doing anything for God, and so I'm going to do my best to make sure that I can keep you in a place where God can't trust you so that God can't use you. That is going to be one of the focal points of my spiritual warfare against you, is to make sure that you never do anything for God. Because remember, the devil's goal is to rule. He's not a fighter. He doesn't want to engage in battle with you. He wants to rule you. And in order to rule you, he needs to get you to be in a lesser role than he is. He needs to attack us in terms of our understanding, our logic, our knowledge, our ability, our accountability, our responsibility, our strength. If he can take all that stuff away and put us in a lesser position so that we have to be dependent on somebody else to do that, then he can make sure that we never do anything for God. And in the context of this passage, Luke chapter 16, where I'm asking you to turn to this morning, in Luke chapter 16, this is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most difficult and the most concerning parable I think that Jesus ever wrote. And the reason that it is it deals with money. And it deals with money in a very specific way, but it deals with money from a secular position, and it deals with it and it calls it unrighteous mammon, so that title already creates a problem. But there's a commendation of a person that's doing something that seems very, very underhanded, and yet they're being commended for it, and that creates an incredible amount of anxiety among believers. Now here's the question we have to ask ourselves. If there's something that God wrote, and it seems to bother us because it doesn't seem like that's really him, do you think that our interpretation is wrong or he's wrong? I'm pretty sure we're wrong. I want to break this passage down for you this morning and show you some pieces to it, because bottom line is God says how you handle money determines what he entrusts you with more than anything else that he chooses to look at. Because how you handle money determines how you would handle everything else. And if you can't handle money well, and you've not planned to handle your money well, he cannot trust you to do something else in life that is of greater value. So I'm going to ultimately read all of the passage, but I'm just going to read it a piece at a time. I have 5 major things that I want you to see in regard to this spiritual warfare that we've got going on, and how the devil will come after us and how he will mess with us, okay? And in order to do that, we have to understand this parable. So number 1, I want you to see the key to understanding the parable. As I start to read it, y'all will hear and remember what this parable is, but it deals with some pretty tough issues of stewardship here. So let's read it. Luke chapter 16, I want to read the first 7 verses. And I want you to hear very carefully what's going on. Now, here, let me set up a little bit of context. Jesus has shared 3 previous parables that deal with monetary things. And in those 3 parables, he's kind of showing how we lean toward financial stuff and how important money is and how much we like money. The final parable that he gave was on the parable of the prodigal son, and the prodigal son wanted to take the inheritance that he got from his dad, take it and spend it, and he blew the whole thing, and then finally came back to his dad. Well, then Jesus caps this off with a parable of an unjust steward. And that's the one we're going to read, and this is the one that is going to speak to us this morning for the point of our study. So let's look at it. Luke chapter 16, verse 1 through 7, it says, and he said also to his disciples, there was a certain rich man who had a steward, and an accusation was brought to him that this man was wasting his goods. Now notice what the accusation was. Not that he was embezzling his goods, not that he was stealing his goods. It just says he was wasting them. So let's let it be what he said. He was wasting his goods. So he called to him and he said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Give an account of your stewardship. I want to see what you're doing with it. For you can no longer be a steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my master is taking my stewardship away from me. And listen to how he says, like, I cannot dig, and I'm too embarrassed and ashamed to beg. It says, I have resolved what I will do, so that whenever I'm put out of the stewardship, that they may receive me into their houses. So he's looking at his debtors. He's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm getting ready to lose my stewardship. I'm going to lose my home. I got to have somewhere to go. I got to have somewhere to live. And so I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something so that I'll be accepted into the houses of the people that owe this guy money. And so here's what he said. So he called every one of his master's debtors to him, and he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, well, tell you what, take your bill, sit down quickly, and write 50. And then he said to another, how much do you owe? So he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, take your bill and write 80. Now, he did this with more, but here's what's going on, and here's how we can understand this parable. It is a parable that Jesus is telling, but Jesus is not in the parable. Jesus is not the master. There is a master. This master is not a religious person. This master is just a secular person. They don't know Jesus, don't know God, not a religious person. He has a steward, someone who manages his stuff, who is not a religious person, just a regular worldly person. They have debtors, not religious debtors, just regular worldly people. So what Jesus is painting for us is a picture of how people in the world, he calls them the sons of this world, how people in the world manage money, and how people in the world look at money, and how people in the world deal with money when they find themselves in money problems. And so here's what's happened. This steward is doing his deal, and somebody says, hey, man, your guy over here is wasting your goods. And so the master comes and says, I need to see what's going on. Well, the guy already knew that he was not doing well. What was he doing? He was not collecting the money that was due the master. Somehow or another, he was kind of, now notice, how much money had he collected? None. None. He's just giving the master's stuff away. He's just giving it away. It's kind of like the United States of America. He's just... We got a lot of unjust stewards in Washington. They're just throwing it out there. He hasn't collected any. So he writes to the debtors and he's like, how much do you owe? The man didn't even know how much they owed. How lazy is he with his stewardship? He didn't even know how much they owe. And they tell him, I owe 100 measures of oil. He's like, well, do this. Write out 50. How much wheat? 80. Write out 80. Let me tell you what this steward did. This steward recognized, man, I don't even know. Give an accounting of my stewardship. I don't know what people owe you. I don't know. I'm just giving it out, right? How many of us, when we go to work, do you know how much it costs to run a business? Do you know how much it costs your employer to employ you? You don't even know. You just feel totally done wrong if you didn't get a raise or something. You don't know anything about business. It's just like this. We don't know. We don't know how much was spent. We don't know where it went. We don't know. And so this guy's like, I don't even know. So he asks his people, and he says, write out 50, write out 80. And let me tell you what this guy did. It's brilliant what he did. Here's what he did. He paid the other half of the bill. Now, a lot of commentators want to say, oh, he stole this money and so he's embezzling money. No, that's not what the scripture says. It says he's just wasting it because he hasn't collected anything. So here's what he did. I'm getting ready to put out of my stewardship. I'm going to get put out of my house. I need to have a future. I've got some money. I need to invest in my own future. So I'm going to pay the difference. They're going to have a discount over here. They're going to love me. I'm going to pay the master. Hey, who lost out in this deal? Did the master lose out? No, because he got all his money. Did the debtors lose out? No, because they got a discount. Did the steward lose out? Well, he lost his job, but he didn't lose out because he invested in his future and he had somewhere to go. He had somewhere to go. So this is how it worked out in the area with the unjust steward. And you have to see it as a story that is not including Jesus. It is simply a contrast between the sons of light, or the sons of the world, and the sons of light. It's a contrast between those two people. And so he first lays down what these people do here that don't know God, and how they manage money, what they do with it. Secondly, I want you to see the truth of the parable. Let's see the truth he's trying to put forward. And here it is. The sons of the world are more shrewd than the sons of light. Oh, that's a horrible statement. That's a terrible statement, but it's true. Luke chapter 16, verse 8 says this. Then the master commended the unjust steward because he had dealt shrewdly. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. So he didn't commend the steward for his unjust handling of his stuff. He commended him for how he fixed the situation, and it was done very, very shrewdly, because the guy sitting back, he's like, hey, I'm not getting my stuff, and you need to have an accounting of your stewardship. And he was thinking, I'm going to get you. And then the guy comes out, the master gets all his money, the people got a discount, he's got a place to go, and the master's like, Brilliant. That's brilliant. How smart is this guy? So that's what's put out there, and he gets a commendation. So don't assume that it is Jesus commending this steward for doing wrong, because that's not the way that it works. The people of the world, both men and women, who dedicate themselves to worldly endeavors and prioritize only the present, not only think about eternity, they exhibit a remarkable diligence in pursuing material wealth and worldly success, and doing it in the most amazing kind of ways. It really is. It's amazing what they do. The fervor with which they pursue those things. But whenever you come down to the children of light, we're very different. Why is that? The children of light, regrettably, we tend to fuss about money. We tend to fuss with each other. We tend to break off relationships, completely opposite of the children of the world. It's kind of weird. When you think about what's taking America down today, it is not a specific group of people, albeit you could put some names on them. It is a united group of people. You ever notice that even if something's completely unrighteous, that the group, then the unrighteous group, they all unite? They don't fight against each other. They don't criticize each other. They don't fuss at each other. They unite, even if they don't know each other. It is the Christians that struggle coming together. It's just a tragedy that happens. What did this guy do? The guy took money, unrighteous mammon, I'll explain that in a minute, and he used it to make friends, so that whenever he got put out of his stewardship, he would have friends that would help him in his endeavors. And that unjust owner commended the unjust steward for what he had done. Number 3, I want you to see the release of the parable, and this is what causes heartburn for most believers, is what Jesus said. Now notice what Jesus says. Number 1 there is money possesses great influence, especially whenever it's wielded in service to the kingdom of God. In verse 9, now watch what Jesus says. He says, now, and I say to you. So he's separating himself from that steward, from that master. He's not saying I was the master. He says, now I've got something to say to you. He says, and he's speaking to his disciples, you make friends for yourselves by unrighteous mammon, that when you fail, they may receive you into an everlasting home. Well, what kind of statement is that? Jesus just said, did you see what these lost people over here did? Did you see how they managed this? Do you see the way that they cleverly and shrewdly worked out this detail? And nobody was really harmed in the whole thing. How powerful that is. So I'm going to tell you guys that you should take the unrighteous mammon. Now, what is that? The terminology for money is used all over the scriptures, but he doesn't use the word money here. He uses the word mammon. And mammon is money. It's money. But mammon is the translation, or where we translate it as unrighteous money or unrighteous mammon. And here's what it means. It means money gained the wrong way. It means money gained in a way that's less than honest. That's what it means. So it'd be like if I stole some money. Well, if I stole $100 and you didn't know I stole $100, and I bought something from you for $100, is the money that I gave you, the $100 I gave you, would be considered unrighteous mammon because I stole it. So it's unrighteous to me. Is it unrighteous to you? No. See, there's a principle that was given in Scripture in Romans chapter 14 that there is nothing that God ever made that was unclean, because God created everything and God is completely holy and everything he created is good. So there's nothing wrong with anything. He says, however, to him who believes it to be unclean, to that person it's unclean. So it's in the hand of the user that makes something good or bad. The world constantly criticizes God because of evil in the world. Well, God had to have created evil. I could spend a long time. Let me just say this. If I were a knife maker and I made steak knives, because I feel like I hate whenever you're trying to saw a steak in half, right? So I want to make this really good steak knife. Nice handle, nice and sharp, so it just glide right through your steak. Now here's the question. Is it possible to cut somebody and kill them with that knife? Well, of course it is. Well, Pastor Kenny, why did you create such an evil weapon? I wasn't creating an evil weapon. I was creating a steak knife. But in the world and just in existence, for every single thing there is, like every single thing there is, there's an opposite. It's not possible to create one thing without having an opposite of it. It's not possible. So for all the people that say God's this evil God and why is there evil in the world, there's evil in the world because there's good. That's why. He's like, well, those are intellectual questions that none of you unintellectual Christians can ask. No, that's not a stupid question. And the only people to ask those questions are stupid people. Okay? And you just call it intellectual because you want to make yourself think you're intellectual. And we've learned today that if we call something, that that's what it is, but that's not what it is. If you understand, if you made it up, is there a down that's already there, or did I have to make the down? Come on, right? I'm tired of them calling us stupid. We're not stupid. But the bottom line is, Jesus said, even though the world calls you stupid, he says, I'm going to kind of jump in on the bandwagon and let you know, you guys are not real shrewd. You get so hung up and so stuck on something that you can't even move forward. I've had people ask me before. They said, hey, Pastor Kenny, just a question. What? If one of your congregants won the lottery and they dropped in a gigantic millions of dollars of tithe check, would you take it? Let me pray on that. Yes. Yeah, but that's lottery money. Now listen, God laid that down whenever he made them leave Egypt, the nation of Israel leave Egypt. He said, and Egypt represents the world in its worst, in its total worst. He says, hey guys, before you go, get all of Egypt's money, build my temple with it. Why? Because it's evil to Egypt, not evil to me. Now, we're not going to take all their gold stuff and all that kind of stuff and like worship it. We're going to melt it down, turn it into something good. One of the reasons the world is so powerful is because Christians don't know how to use money. We have no idea how to use money, and the devil is messing with us in terms of how to use money. What is the point of the parable? Number 4, it is this: the way you manage your finances reflects your credibility when it comes to what truly counts. God's like, hey, I'm not sure I can trust you with some things, but I'm going to look at how you use money. Listen to this, verses 10 through 12. It says, he who is faithful, and this is the context of this parable, he who is faithful in what is least is also faithful in much. He who is unjust in what is least is also unjust in what is much. Therefore, if you've not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who would commit to your trust the true riches? And if you've not been faithful in what's another man's, who will give you what is your own? In other words, what's at stake here in the usage of money is true riches and something that is yours personally. There's a lot of people, I believe, that will grow up in life and they will never, ever, ever, ever be able to enjoy the thing that God called them to do because they won't be faithful in something and he can't trust you. And that's tragic. That's really, really tragic that you're not going to be able to enjoy some of the things that God had in store for you. And so he says, hey, there's a principle here that our faithfulness that God looks at is not in this gigantic stuff that you have. It's in the simple little things that you do. The little things that you do. So if you're a child in here today, maybe that's not the terminology. You're a young person. You're not quite out from under the leadership of your parents yet. And they were to say, can you just put your clothes in the dirty clothes hamper? And guess what? You're like, it's my room, and I will do in my room what I want to do. And when I'm 18, I'm out of here anyway, and you can't tell me what to do. Not that any child would ever say that, right? They would never say anything like that. But let's say that they did. God would say, well, that's up to them. I'm just never going to entrust them with anything. If you have a job, you work for a company, something needs to be done that's not in your job description. You walk past something that really needs to be done. It's not my job. God would say, that's true. The job you got is the only job you're ever going to get. Because I'm sure not going to give you anything else. I'm not going to advance you any further. When you step over the trash that's on the ground, you can't pick it up and put it in the trash can. God's like, I'm giving you nothing. I can't trust you with anything. Who would ever do that? Who would give to somebody something whenever they're wasting away everything that there is? When we give away all the United States government would. They would. They just give money to people that didn't make the money, didn't earn the money, not even citizens here. They just give all that money away for those of us who are earning the money, and then we are the victims. We're the villains whenever we're like, hey, I don't think that should happen, because it shouldn't. So you shouldn't put them back in Washington. You'll do what God would say. No, you're not going to go any further. He's like, no. Who would entrust you with true riches? Let me tell you what true riches are. People. I wonder who will be in heaven to meet you there when you get there. Who will meet you there? Will God entrust? Will the message of the gospel that you give, will it be effective anywhere? Who will be there? That's the true riches. And then God said, who would give you what's your own? What is your own to have? What do you personally have that nobody can take away from you? What do you have? And God says, if you're not faithful in the little things, if you're not faithful even in the unrighteous things. And so what I think is so critical about this passage is God says, if you've not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, in other words, God holds you responsible for what you would deem bad in the world. God says there's nothing bad in the world, it only depends on who's using it and how they use it. And so why don't you take it and use it for good? I'm going to take all of your drug money that you dropped off on my door, and I'm going to use it for God. I'm going to use it to expand the kingdom. I'm going to use it to build something that's going to help drug people overcome drugs. I'm going to use it for those things that are righteous and those things that are holy and those things that are good. And I'm not going to let you label it in some kind of bad way. I'm not going to do that. Why would we do that? And that's what Jesus is saying in this parable, which messes with people. It really does. It messes with them. When you get paid and you get your paycheck, do you know where that money's been? Like for those of you who are like against the lottery, and I get all that. There's bad things about it, I get it. But you don't know that somebody didn't buy a lottery ticket with the money that you just went into the store across the street and then they handed you back a few bucks. That might have just bought a lottery ticket that you disagreed with. So here's what you need to do with all that unrighteous mammon. Bring it to me, because I know how to spend it. I totally know how to spend it. I know how to use it. Bring it to me. I'll use it for good stuff. And then I'll say, Lord, they gave it to me. Give them credit. But I know how to use it, okay? Number 5. The mental challenge of the parable. Here it is. Attempting to serve both God and money will result in constant anxiety. It really will. He says in verse 13, no one can serve two masters. He'll either hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one, despise the other. You cannot serve God and money, God and mammon. It can't be done. And so here's the challenge. One of them is going to be the master. Here's what the devil wants to do. He wants to make money your master so that God won't be. If he can make money your master, guess what you'll do to God? You'll hate and despise God. How many people hate and despise God over money? Like this morning, here's the deal. We don't take up offerings in this church. I haven't taken up offering in years and years and years and years. We have offering boxes around in various places, and we take free will offerings. If somebody wants to give, they get to give. If they don't want to, they don't have to. We put boxes out front for a one-for-one. You can give or you don't have to. It's up to you. I don't know who gives. I don't look at records. I don't want to know who gives. I just don't. Some people say, that's wrong. You could raise more funds. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm trying to raise disciples, not funds. And I'm trusting that God will raise the funds that we need. But he says you can't serve God and money because there's going to be an emotional anxiety between the two. It's going to be really challenging. When we speak about money in the church, if I'm coming after you and I'm saying things and being mean, we shouldn't do that. However, there are 3 ways that you can tell whether or not you're challenged by money being your master or God being your master. Because if God's your master, if you're a tither this morning, you say, preach it, Pastor Kenny, you tell them, right? Because you're a giver. If you're not a giver, it's like, well, I'll tell you what, he's some kind of smart aleck, right? Let me give you 3 ways to identify your thoughts on money. The first one's going to be the tithe. Did it just send a shiver down your spine? If it did, you might be challenged with money as your master, okay? Because like, where does it say in the Bible? There's no need in trying to convince you of that stuff. I'm not going to try. I will tell you this. This is factual. This is factual. 20% of our church tithes. 20%. So every single thing that happens at Northside, everything is made possible by 20% of our congregation. That just happens to be true. It really does. I think that's a sad number. That's actually a high number in church circles. The average is about 11 to 12% in a church. We have about 20% giving, so God bless y'all. Thank you for doing that. But it's pretty low. It's really a challenge. Hey, can I tell you that there's some churches that have 100%? Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, 100%. Why? You don't give, you ain't in. Mike and I were where were we at? Honduras. We were in the Communion Church, and I want to say it was Tegucigalpa, Honduras. We were in Honduras. Went into a church. It was called the Communion Church. And went into the back. They had a bulletin board with the names of every member of their church and whether they gave or didn't give. Published on the back wall. Updated every single week. I was like, ooh. I don't know about that one. Tithe, giving. Boy, every time I come to church, all y'all wants our money. I'm not asking for your money. Matter of fact, keep it. I'm really not asking for your money. I'm just saying, is there an identifier that giving? Like, boy, they're always asking for giving. I'm asking for $4 this morning. I am asking for that. But that's still free will. If you want to, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay too. But the thing is that giving can be a challenge for people. They don't want to talk about giving because like, well, I already tithe, I don't want to talk about the giving. And giving is free will, tithing is free will. And then number 3, growth. Like a lot of people, I can't tell you the thousands of people that have come to Northside, and they will say this, well, we visited for a little while, but y'all are too big. It's too big. There's too many people there. Yeah, I agree. I think most women should just go straight to hell. You start saving people, they're going to come in here and take our seats. We have a visitation program. We knock on doors. Hello, who are you? Pastor Kenny from Northside Church. Go to hell. I saw you driving by looking in our church. Go to hell. Somebody's not going to like you sitting in one of these chairs. I like to go to the mall, hear people come out of the mall. That daggone mall is just too big. I can't stand it. They've got too many stores. They've got too much opportunity. I hate it. When I fly airplanes, I like to fly the real tiny airplanes that are real small that you can't get the luggage in, that you got to stick it underneath and your legs are this tight and the things are hitting you in the knee. I like those. I don't like them big 777s that you can do that in. Can't stand those. Too big. It's too big. It's too much. Way too much. I don't even like these wide chairs that we have, these 22-inch wide chairs. I think we'll shrink them down to 18 inches. These are way too big. Way too big. Just too big. It's only too big when it comes to Jesus, right? Just too big when it comes to Jesus. It's like, well, I came to Easter last week and man, we were shoving them in there like sardines. And we took every chair, couches, tables. We didn't care. We almost threw cots out last week. It's like, well, I can't come back there. It's too crowded. Been to the Azalea Festival? See the crowds at the Azalea Festival? Just a thought. Hanging out there at night watching fireworks, freezing. Right? They don't like it. And this is the challenge. This is the challenge that we have, is it creates a mental challenge because it's like, do I give? Do I have to tithe? Should I give? When somebody comes to this, hey, if I sold my house, if I made some money, does God expect me to give that? No. God expect me to tithe on my taxes? No. He doesn't expect it, no. He expects you to want to. And if you don't want to, don't. Don't. Just don't. See, this money thing is a very powerful thing. I'll tell you this. When I first got saved, just before I got saved, when Terry was asking me to come to church, and I agreed to come. I said, I'll come. I went riding my motorcycle, racing my motorcycle every Saturday night. And so I agreed to come on a Sunday morning, once on a Sunday morning. When I finally agreed, she's like, good, then we're going Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, and you're going to start tithing. And I'm like, you better back off. I said, the only thing that church wants is my money. That's all they want. They want to bankrupt me. I can't believe they're stealing money from all them people. Then I got saved. And the first thing I thought was, man, I need to give. And I asked the pastor, should I have to pay back taxes? I was 27, so I was like, no. He's like, no, you don't have to do all that. You just start where you're at. And the weirdest part was I never missed it. And in fact, I'm better off than I ever was from the day I started. It was weird. God just said he blessed it. And I think it was because I wanted to. It was not forced or coerced. I don't think it's a good idea. If you're feeling coerced, don't. Just don't. But I will tell you, the devil will use this money thing against you. Here's what God wants. God wants you to be free from money. The only way to be free from money is to be generous. That's the only way to do it, is to be generous. But he also wants you to use it. He wants you to use money to advance his kingdom. And he says, you guys should make friends with the unrighteous mammon so that whenever you fail, now what does that mean? It means when you die. Money has no value after you're dead. It means when you die, that there'll be somebody that you sent forward because of how we chose to use money. Last week, we had 11 or 12 people that were saved last week. When they walked out of here, we gave them a Bible, a devotional. We gave them some startup material and stuff like that. I don't know if y'all know this or not. That cost money. Didn't cost anything to them, but it cost money to do that. When I don't know how much money we have in goldfish. Like, so, do you invest in gold? I do. What kind of gold? Fish. Man, we serve a lot of goldfish to the little kiddos, right? Goldfish, diapers, wipes, gloves, stuff like that. Cost money. And God says, hey, when we invest money into people, it helps them to know a little bit more about God. And prayerfully one day, you'll be saved because of the generosity of the people of God. That's why. To strong armor you over